Welcome to the Shamba Shaper podcast.
I am Elias Ngotho, passionate about agriculture.
And I'm Maggie Wamboi, a lover of art and agriculture. Welcome back to part 2 of our podcast episode on climate change. In the first part, we talked about the causes of climate change and how it's affecting farming. If you missed that, make sure to go back and give it a listen. In this episode, we are diving deeper into how farmers can adapt and cope with these climate changes. And to help us understand this better, we have our crop fundi, Madam Lilian. Karibu sana.
Thank you. I am happy to continue our talk on climate change and how we can adapt.
Could you remind our listeners about these 2 ways of coping with climate change?
Sure, there are 2 main ways to fight climate change. First is mitigation. We try by all means to reduce the greenhouse gases that go into the air to eventually lower them. And the second way is adaptation. It involves finding ways to lessen the harm caused by climate change. I pointed out that small-scale farmers in places like Kenya can't fight climate change through mitigation on their own. Farmers can adapt climate-smart practices to better adapt to these changes.
So, what is climate-smart agriculture for the sake of the listener?
Climate-smart agriculture is a set of methods that aim to make farmers better cope and recover quickly from the effects of climate change. In this podcast, we'll go over the main aspects of climate-smart farming. But first, farmers should know that it focuses on some key areas. One is getting timely and accurate weather forecast, knowing when the rain will start, how long the growing season will be, how much rain to expect, and when it will end, along with warnings about strong winds can help a farmer prepare better. They can choose the right crop variety based on expected rainfall, plant at the right time, or take extra steps to protect their crops, like harvesting early if heavy rain is forecasted. Farmers can be able to get such information from various sources, including radio, television, or a shamba.
There is no doubt that armed with this forecast, the farmer can already make the right decision for his farming for that season and beyond.
Yes.
2. Making the soil healthy and fertile with organic matter or natural materials. Thirdly, planting early maturing and drought-resistant crops or types, or growing crops that mature faster and can survive with less water. 4. Growing different types of crops and animals. The 5th one is water harvesting and better water use. The last one is agroforestry.
Can you explain how these methods work and how they can help despite climate change?
Conservation agriculture is a farming system based on these 3 pillars. 1 is reduced soil disturbance. 2nd is making sure that the soil is covered with living or dead plant material.
Yes.
And lastly, crop rotation or intercropping.
Okay.
Reduce disturbance of the soil by turning it less during land preparation helps the soil hold more water, reduce the loss of water to the air in the soil, and improves soil health by supporting tiny living things in the soil. It also helps reduce soil erosion from rain and wind.
And so how best can this be done?
One way to do this is by making furrows with the right spacing for your crop using a plow or tractor. Seeds are then planted in these furrows at the right spacing. If using a hoe, make planting holes only where seeds will go. In both methods, the rest of the field is left undisturbed and crop residue is kept on the soil surface. Another part of conservation agriculture is mulching, which involves covering the soil with dry plant materials. Mulch helps keep water in the soil by reducing water being lost from the soil to the air, preventing soil erosion and adding nutrients or plant food into the soil as it rots. The third part of conservation agriculture is crop rotation and intercropping.
Yeah.
So rotation means changing the types of crops grown in a field each season or year, which improves soil health and fertility. Intercropping, on the other hand, involves growing 2 or more crops together, which helps manage climate risks. For example, planting beans with maize can improve soil fertility because beans adds nitrogen to the soil, which helps the maize.
Okay. Farmer, We hope this supports you. Stay tuned. Keep listening.
Can you explain how planting different crops and keeping livestock is useful in adapting to climate change?
Yes, indeed. So planting crops, keeping livestock is known as diversification. And it's one of the most effective strategies farmers use to adapt to climate change. So instead of farmers planting only one type of crop, they can plant several different crops with different maturity periods. Even when they plant only one type of crop, they can plant different varieties of the same crop. An example of this is planting early and late maturing varieties of that crop. If the rains are less than expected, the farmer will not lose everything as he may get a harvest from the early maturing variety. I don't know if you've understood. Manure from livestock can be used to benefit the crops by improving the soil. On the other hand, livestock can feed on crop remains, and even when there is a crop failure, they will eat the crop that did not mature.
I always thought farmers did mixed farming mainly to increase their profits. But the reasons you've mentioned, like helping the environment and adapting to climate change, makes a lot of sense and shows why this approach is important. Now, Lilian, can we talk about water management? It's one of the key farming practices you mentioned earlier that helps farmers cope with climate change.
Sure, collecting and storing rainwater along with making better use of available water can help grow crops or fodder even with low rainfall or outside growing season.
And what methods can we use to collect water?
There are several ways that rainwater harvesting can be done. One of the ways is by trapping and holding the rainwater where it falls. This is possible by making soil and water conservation structures. Some of the common soil and water conservation structures made by farmers, especially on slopy farms, include cut-off drains, retention ditches, and fanya-juu terraces. These structures reduce the speed of runoff down the slope, holds the water, and allow it to seep slowly into the ground. Another method of rainwater harvesting is trapping rain where it falls and taking it to storage at another place away from where it fell. Trapping and collecting of rainfall can be from rooftops, homestead yards, roads, and other surfaces. After harvesting, the water can be stored in storage tanks and ponds.
In addition to collecting water, how we use it is really important, especially when water is limited.
Yes.
Which happens often because of climate change.
And that's very true. Farmers should use farming methods that make the best use of the little water they have. Let me explain further. Different irrigation systems use water in various ways. For example, furrow and basin systems use 50 to 65% of the water applied. Sprinklers use 70 to 85%, and drip irrigation uses 90 to 95%. So, farmers should choose drip irrigation to save the most water. And since irrigation needs a lot of water, using a more efficient system helps farmers conserve water for other uses or allow them to irrigate a larger area, leading to more production.
I see why many farmers are choosing drip irrigation now. Earlier, you had mentioned agroforestry as a key part of climate-smart agriculture.
Agroforestry is a farming system which combines planting trees, growing crops, and keeping livestock. The three main types of agroforestry systems depends on how the trees are included. So the first one is planting trees with crops. Secondly is planting trees and keeping livestock. And thirdly, integrating trees, crops, and livestock. So you have the three together.
And how does agroforestry help farmers adapt to climate change?
Trees and shrubs can thrive in very dry conditions because they reach water and nutrients from a wide area. They also protect the soil and reduce surface runoff, helping to lessen the effects of drought and heavy rains. Secondly, trees helps farmers better cope with climate impact.
Yeah.
If a drought ruins their annual crop, trees can still provide fruit, fodder, firewood, timber, and other valuable products. Thirdly, tree roots stabilizes the soil, helping to prevent erosion and landslides in hilly areas. The fourth reason is that trees helps the nutrient cycle by bringing nutrients from deep in the ground back to the surface through their roots and fallen leaves. Lastly, agroforestry improves the environment by providing a home for pollinator insects.
But are all trees suitable to plant in an agroforestry system?
That's a very good question. Choosing the right trees for agroforestry depends on the system you are using. For example, when growing trees with crops, choose one that lets sunlight through to avoid shading, ones with deep roots so they don't compete for water and nutrients. Common choices are Grevillea in wetter areas and Gliricidia in drier areas. For systems with trees and livestock, select trees that produce fodder like Calliandra, Lucerne, and Sesbania.
Since agroforestry is crucial for adapting to climate change and offers economic, environmental, and social benefits, we are preparing a full podcast dedicated to this topic.
I'm excited to dive deeper into its benefits and to be able to share helpful information and encourage others to get involved.
Sure, Maggie. In summary, dear listener, first, check the weather forecast. Secondly, use conservation agriculture. And thirdly, focus on crop management, improved varieties, and diversification. Also, manage soil and water and use efficient irrigation schemes. And include agroforestry.
That is right. You have summarized it very well. It was a great pleasure to be part of this discussion on climate change and how farmers can adapt to maintain their livelihoods. I look forward to joining you again soon.
It was a pleasure having you, Lilian.
Sure, and until next time,
Bye.
Farmer, we hope this supports you. In this podcast, we will bring you a lot more.
We will answer your questions, and if not, we will get an expert in our next series of episodes. You can also catch up this information on Shamba Shepherd. Bye.